Hey, Truvine, this is Pastor Jim, and I wanted to let you know that this Sunday we're going to be starting a new sermon series on the book of Amos. Amos is a minor prophet from the Old Testament. A couple years ago, when I finished my work in seminary, my very last class was on the book of Amos, and my last assignment for my master's degree was to explain the book of Amos to an 8-year-old. Well, I happened to have an 8-year-old at that time. My daughter Emma was 8 years old. And so my very last seminary assignment was to take my daughter out for a drink at Starbucks and explain the message of the prophet Amos and the book of Amos to her in a way that she could understand it. And here's how I summarized it for an 8-year-old, and I think that this will make sense for many of us. The book of Amos, the message of Amos, is about how sometimes we do not worship God the way that God wants us to worship him. As we go through the 9 chapters of Amos, we're going to see that God's people had drifted away from worshiping God on God's terms. There was still a temple, they were still singing songs, they were still pretending or playing at their faith in God and their religion, but we find out that God is not satisfied and not pleased with this sort of let's call it bootleg or false worship. And so he decides to tear it all down and start over. And so Amos is about how sometimes we do not worship God the way that God wants us to worship him, and that true worship worships God on God's terms. So that's what we're going to be looking at. The series on Amos will probably take 15 weeks. So get familiar with Amos, read it in your free time. Follow along in this sermon series, whether you're in person or watch online. I look forward to this. I think it's going to be great for us, and I'll see you this Sunday.